In the Jewish religion, you have to bury the deceased as soon after they pass as you can. There's also a tradition of opening a door or window to let the spirit go. It was 5 a.m. and we needed a rabbi to perform this. There was a really nice young Orthodox Jewish rabbi who, with one phone call from one of my father's friends who also happened to be Orthodox, the rabbi came to the ICU at 5:20. We all gathered around and said a simple prayer and slid the curtain back and sent my dad's spirit on its way. My older brother took my dad's wedding ring off and gave it to my mom. We went home to plan the funeral. He died Monday morning at 4:20 and the funeral was Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock. We all began planning it at 9 o'clock Monday morning in complete and total shock. The funeral director rabbi was just going over the standard funeral pack number 3, and we were all just nodding our heads blankly and doing the old, sure, sounds good, when my older brother's ex-wife snapped us all around with a very brief and thankfully very awakening comment. She simply stated, "This is so not Jerry. This doesn't represent who he was or what he was about." It was like someone threw a bucket of cold water on us. My mom came to first and remembered that my dad had told her the entire time he was alive, see how optimistic he was, always planning the funeral, that he wanted a Dixieland band and a New Orleans funeral procession with the umbrellas and dancing in the streets, and we all thought that sounded much more like him. My mom said she couldn't see him closing down the main street in Portland, although in retrospect we probably could have and should have. Dad would have. But she did think that New Orleans-style music was a good idea. So we called a local family friend and he connected us with a great 5-piece ensemble. We told him what we were looking for. When we told them it was for a funeral, they thought it was a little non-traditional and we just rolled with, well, Dad wasn't a typical kind of guy. In traditional dad fashion, he changed the way people grieve in Portland, Maine now. My younger brother found a note, a poem actually, that my dad had written that he wanted to read, and I wrote a tribute. My mom and older brother spoke. A neighbor's daughter read a Navajo prayer, and we opened up the service for anyone that wanted to speak to come up and say a few words. There were relatives and family friends we expected to talk, but we never expected the number of people that either spoke from their seats or came up to speak. It would have gone on indefinitely had the rabbi not concluded the service. All 4 kids spoke without falling apart. A very rare occurrence at her funeral, and even more rare considering we all followed part of her crappy Hallmark greeting cards. We all joked it was my dad intervening because he wanted everyone there to hear every single word we had to say about him and how amazing he was. Even my sister spoke and made it through a very lovely poem without having to be held up and hauled off. Before the service, we went to a small sanctuary where there was an open casket where you could go by and say goodbye, and people left things with the deceased, a note or some photographs. I had a necklace that my daughter had strung from small beads when she was 4 years old. I put it inside the jacket pocket of his coat. I figured if he had to do any type of bartering or negotiating or pay a ferryman, he could use the necklace for safe passage or to barter, as it was loaded with all the love and positivity I could put on it. And so in complete disbelief and in granddad fashion, we said goodbye.